Hello, everybody. My name is Kenny, and this time I'm going to do the box sauna of Hack the Box. This is a Windows Active Directory box, and it is rated as easy. I have already done the box, so this video will only highlight the things needed to root it. First, let's grab the IP. I always copy the IP to a new tab, so I have it visible in sight. Next up is enumerating the box with some dire busting and nmap scanning. I made a simple script for that, which I already ran. I saved the output to a file, so let's check what we have got. Based on the open ports I see, we are dealing with a domain controller. I also see port 80 is open. We need to check that out too. The domain name is egotisticalbank.local. Let's copy that and put it in our notes. I made a script for storing box info I find, like the IP address, the domain name, and credentials like username and password. Here we can update the stored domain name and IP address with the IP address of the box and the new domain name we found. Now we can use these data in the commands we are running. Let's open up a browser tab and check what's on the website. For further enumeration, we need some usernames, so let's check if we see any users or email addresses on this website. Most likely a page about the company, its users, or a contact form will give some nice info. Here on the page we see 6 users. That's nice. Let's put those names in a file so we can use them with our further enumeration. Copy-paste from the web page to the file. Maybe there is a faster or easier way to do this, but with only 6 users, this will do. Now, most likely, the names don't have the right format, so we need to tighten it up a little. There are a couple of options. You can combine the 2 names into one or have a dot in between them. Often you see only the first letter of the first name is used and then combined with the last name. You need to experiment with it a bit. I made a script that will use all possible combinations I just mentioned, but because I already have done the box, I know it is a combination of the first letter of the first name and the whole last name. We can use awk for making a user list with that format. If we have the right format, we can print it out to a file so we can work with it. Now we have a user file. We need to check if those users are valid users on the domain. One very nice tool is Kerbroot Useriname. It can query the domain controller while we do not have any credentials yet. And here we see there is a valid user. F. Smith is recognized. Nice! We can store the valid user so we have it available. As we don't have a password for the user, I put his name also in the password field. It would not be the first time something like that has happened. Now that we have a user, but not a password yet, we can try some attacks. Password brute forcing is possible, but first let's try a rep roasting attack. AS rep roasting is an attack technique that targets the Kerberos authentication protocol, enabling attackers to retrieve password hashes for user accounts with pre-authentication disabled. Bingo! We see the hash for our user F. Smith. Let's grab the hash and try to crack it. Copy the hash to a file. Now we use hashcat to try to crack the hash and hopefully we get the user's password. Yes, it worked. The password is the strokes 23. Now we have full credentials of F. Smith. Let's update the credentials in our tool. With the updated credentials, we can try some other attacks. We can do some more user enumeration to check if there are more users we can identify. The netexec SMB rid brute attack is great for that. Now we have credentials. Yes, I see two more users, SVC Loan Manager and H. Smith. And again, we add them to our little tool. This is a bit dull administrative work, but it may come in handy, and it's nice to have it available when needed. Okay, now that is done, let's do some more enumeration. Let's find out if we have access to some shares on the box with the netexec SMB tool. Cool, there is some output, but no share where we have write access to with this user, so we won't be able to ps exec into the box. If we check for users, we see the same output as we saw before, so nothing new here. Now finally let's go and try to get a shell on the box. In the Nmap scan, we saw there was WinRM on the box, so we could use the tool Evil WinRM to grab a shell. And that worked. We are in. Nice. First things first, this is a CTF after all, so let's check for the user text. And there it is. For the next step, you can take two routes, and that is to collect some info of the box and load that into Bloodhound for a graphical overview. If you have a shell, you can use sharphound.exe or sharphound ps1, but I prefer to do it from my Kali machine with Python Bloodhound. There is the output already. I see it found 1 computer and 7 users. Let's grab the zip file with info and load that into Bloodhound. Clear the old database and import the zip into a new database. Nice! The JSON files are imported without any errors, so we are ready to go. The SVC loan manager, which we saw earlier, is there, so that is a potential high target. The other user we saw, hsmoth, is Kerberos-ostable. That means that we should be able to steal his hash. We already saw that fsmith was rep-roastable and got his hash, even were able to crack it. We can set fsmith as owned, which means we have his credentials. If we analyze the shortest path to domain admins, we see the SVC loan manager again. If we can grab his hash or password, we can own this box. Let's enumerate further what we can do with our current user. I look for execution rights and outbound object control, but our current user fsmith does not have any of these, which means we can't do much at the moment. We saw the user hsmith was Kerberos-ostable, so let's try to grab his hash. Kerberosting is a technique where an attacker requests a Kerberos service ticket for an account with a service principal name, SPN, whereby a user account is tight to a service account. When we try to execute the targeted Kerberos.python file, we get an error saying the clock skew is too great. This means the time clock of our Kali machine is different than the time clock of the target machine. Luckily, there is a command to solve this error. We need to tweak our command a little bit, but in the end, it worked. Now rerun our Kerboast attack to see if we can grab the hash. And there it is. Nice. We can also copy-paste it in a file and try to crack it with hashcat, like we did with the reprost hash before. Yes, we were able to crack it again, and we see the password is the same as with the fsmith user. Let's update our credential database with this password for hsmith. Now we have the full credentials of hsmith. We can enumerate the box with this credentials and see if we can discover some new ways to escalate our privileges. The credentials work, but no new share we see or shares we can write to. The hsmith user will not bring us any further. Let's change back to our fsmith credentials so we can get a shell on the box again and work from there. This is what I like from my little script. It's super easy to change from one user to another. So far, we didn't see any Prevesk path in Bloodhound, so let's upload WinPeas on the box and see if that give any useful output. I ran WinPeas, but it took a long time before it finished. So let's do it again with a parameter which only checks for user-related stuff. After it is done, I see the jackpot, a clear text password from the SVC loan manager. It is a good habit to check for autologon credentials. And again, let's put the password in our database. We already have 3 users with credentials in there. Now select the credentials of the loan manager. Let's go back to Bloodhound to check for the SVC loan manager. If the loan manager can DC sync, it means he or she can ask for data from the domain controller, like the hashes of all users, included the administrator. Yes, that's great. If you see DC sync, it means you have the keys to the kingdom. You can do a DC sync from within the box, but again, I like to do it from my Kali. The secretsdump.py is the tool for a DC sync. Wow, and there it is. I see the administrator hash. Nice. Again, let's copy it to our credential database. The administrator is already in our database, but I make a second one because this is a hash instead of a password. Now select the credentials and log in as administrator via EvilWin RM. We have to change one thing because we use a hash, but bam, we are in. We own this machine. Now the very last thing, the root.txt. Let's grab that and game over.